So I made almost like a part A and part B of a video. The part A was around, you know, being at the top of the power pyramid and needing to take action and understanding, because you don't experience daily oppression, that you need to start taking action and not pushing to board meetings. But today is like the part B of this, which is when you sit in a group of, you know, in an oppressed group, right? Minoritized or marginalized. The one thing that we are is impatient. We're impatient for change. And sometimes the glimmers of hope become even more, I'm not going to say frustrating, but I'm going to say soul destroying actually, when the glimmer of hope turns out to be less than a glimmer, when you feel like change is on the horizon and then all of a sudden it's pushed into something else, it's swallowed into something else, it's diluted into whatever, but it's no longer focused on the issues that you're particularly facing. Or alternately, you know, you've got everybody getting hyped. Everybody's in this group, everybody's in that group. They're ready, you know, they're ready to take charge. They're ready to do. But when let's say the first initiatives begin, there's a wave of disappointment because it's not what was expected. And that for me is the hardest part and will always be the hardest part. It's that mix of, I always call myself an optimistic realist. So like, I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful for the future, but I'm also realistic in terms of how quickly can things change. They should change, but if you're a Black woman and you've been oppressed by society for the past 500 years, how quickly can I realistically expect things to change? And I think this is the part of sometimes managing frustration and also managing, unfortunately, bureaucracy, because we see it in the expression of in many companies still not being able to close the gender pay gap. And you're like, well, you can just type the number in the computer and change it. Or not willing to close the ethnicity pay gap, right? Bureaucracy is one of the most intelligent ways to prevent change. You know, it's almost the hope that people give up because it takes so long. Don't give up. Don't give up your glimmer of hope. And when I say that, please don't give up, because this is why I do what I do, because I don't wait to give up, because I'm not giving up. And I know that we're running out of patience because it's been so long. You know, it's coming up to almost 2 years since George Floyd was murdered, and we're still having, in many cases, the same conversations we were having back then today. It's just with heightened frustration because nothing has changed. And I think this is where the pressure has to start to be put on, as in, now isn't the time to be less vocal, but more vocal in a sense, because without being vocal as to how we're not being catered to and how we're not being served and how our purpose is not being enabled, I think that's the only way we can kind of create this, we can create more momentum internally. Because it's difficult, right? There's the structure of security, there's a structure of having to find another job and all these parts. But unless companies feel some kind of internal pressure, their motivation to push this speed of change, especially if leadership sits in a group that is either not oppressed at all or less oppressed, it's not going to be correlative to what you want, what we need, what we expect. Because the system has been created to be able to fend off its challenges. So it's not to say don't give up at all, but it's to say that we have to be realistic about how soon, how quickly some of this change is going to happen. Because the system that needs to be dismantled is one that is really accepting of negative and critical feedback, and one that pushes, and I mean pushes really hard, and puts pressure on to say this is not enough. Because until we voice that it's not enough, within those arenas, within the workplace, not just within the groups talking to other black girlfriends, no, within the workplace, they'll think it's fine. And we know it's not. And I'm not saying right now you have to complain and, you know, start writing letters. But there's part of us that has to speak out what we want. Otherwise, we will end up in the situation where we're frustrated with no outlet and disappointed because what started as focusing on black women has now been diluted to just general and overall diversity campaign or initiative. And if not, worst case scenario, call me. You know, I'm happy to speak up for you. Send me a note. Because this is the thing, we have to start using our voices in those places to make sure we're really heard. On that note, I'm wishing you a wonderful day. Bye-bye.